Buckle up, y'all. It is wild card weekend, and we are fired up to be with you guys. The best time of the year as we welcome you into the NFL betting show. Abby Labar, Chris Meaney, Sam Chowdhury joining us yet again this week. Gents, I'm pumped about this weekend. I'm sure you guys are too. What are you most excited about, Chris?
I'm most excited about just playoff football. I'm just it's the best. I would say we're gonna dive into all of these matchups. I think there's a couple appealing storylines.
Yeah.
I don't think any bigger than Matthew Stafford going in and playing against his former team in the Detroit Lions, who won the division for the first time since 1993. McVay, Jared Goff, Dan Campbell, new and upcoming coach. Inexperience against experience. So even Tyreek Hill going to Arrowhead and playing his former team. There's a lot of intriguing storylines. Mike McCarthy against his former squad, all those things. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to some playoff football and just eliminating all the bad football that we've seen this year with backup quarterbacks.
Good point on that. What a wonky season, Sam. Was there any team that kind of surprised you looking back a couple months ago that's now going into this weekend in a wild card game or just in the postseason in general that you were like, I was not expecting that one?
Yeah, I'd say so I think Pittsburgh and Green Bay sort of like on opposite ends of the spectrum. Like Pittsburgh, they were sort of pulling out these wins where they were sort of just hanging around, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a fluke, but I mean, they're on their third string quarterback and they still needed things to break right. Obviously, if the Ravens hadn't been resting, we probably wouldn't be talking about Pittsburgh in the postseason. But yeah, I mean, credit to Mike Tomlin. We see it every season. It's just, I feel like as long as Mike Tomlin's going to be there, they're just not going to pick high enough to get a new franchise quarterback. They'll always be hovering around 500, maybe get into the playoffs. And yeah, I'd say Green Bay too. I mean, Jordan Love was, the way he was playing in the beginning of the season was just completely unsustainable, given his touchdown to interception ratio. And I mean, yeah, the offense looked good, but you knew that eventually the floor had to collapse. And it did for a stretch in the middle of the season. And now we see towards the end, he's really ramped it up. You can see him definitely developing as a player. They've had some notable wins to close off the season. And yeah, I mean, whatever happens with their season, the first year without Aaron Rodgers already make the playoffs. I think that's a huge win in and of itself. But yeah, I mean, those two teams, they're the only teams that are over a field goal. They're 7.5 in favor of Dallas and 9.5 to 10 in favor of Buffalo. So they do still seem like a lower tier than the rest. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's really any bad teams that got in. So.
Yeah, Pittsburgh has been an interesting story. I feel like we were like high on Kenny Pickett. I was high on Kenny Pickett like before the season. And then, of course, like you said, he hasn't even played as much as we thought he would. So, no, I love it. Let's take a look at the slate of games we can look forward to this weekend. I think the Texans also won that has been exciting to watch, and CJ Stroud, and we'll kind of kickstart right there with the Browns in Houston. And we're going to kind of go through all these like chronologically, figure out what some of you guys' favorite plays are in regards to these games. So yeah, let's start there. In Houston, guys, the Browns won 4 of their last 5. They lost last week against the Bengals. CJ Stroud and the Texans, like, I know this matchup we just saw back in week 16. Would you say CJ Stroud has improved enough just in 2 weeks? Like, he gets better and better, right? But is 2 weeks enough for him to kind of get his revenge against the Browns? What do you guys think about this one? Chris, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'll kick us off. So that week 16 matchup was unfortunately for the Texans. Stroud didn't play in that game, but it is an opportunity, Abby. You're right, to get revenge, though. You're not wrong. An opportunity to get revenge against a team in Cleveland that really torched the secondary. So it's hard to look into that too much, but we have a short, like, it just happened. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Only 2 weeks ago. So it's like, how quickly does this change, or is it going to be the same thing we saw?
So I think, there's something to be said about this offense in Cleveland since Joe Flacco has taken over. I mean, he almost threw for 370 yards in that game. He had 3 touchdowns. Amari Cooper had over 260 yards. He had 11 catches, 2 touchdowns. And Njoku had a touchdown in a big game. Those 2 players, Njoku and Cooper, since Flacco has been around, they've been fantastic. Cooper has over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns in his last 3 games. And Njoku's top 90 yards in 3 of his last 5. He's got 4 touchdowns over that span as well. So the offense is rolling. But the defense is why I think I'm leaning Cleveland here to win this football game. They've allowed a league low 270 yards, 162 through the air, 5.9 yards per attempt, and a 57% completion rate to opposing quarterbacks. And the Texans, as I mentioned, they got lit up. Their secondary, 23rd in passing yards, 7.7 yards per attempt allowed, is the 3rd worst mark in football. I think CJ Stroud's fantastic. I think he's him. He's a superstar in the making. He's good enough, I think, to hang around in this game. But I just think that the Cleveland defense it's just a different beast that he's going to have to face, as opposed to last week having to beat the Colts to get to this spot. It's night and day. The 2 defenses got to deal with Myles Garrett now in his face and the pressure. So I'm going to lean with Cleveland here. I'm going to side the road team, the favorite, but the defense I think is the biggest factor for me. And like as great as CJ Stroud has been, and he deserves all the flowers, Joe Flacco has double-digit games on the road in the playoffs in his career. So yes, he's older. He's been around. This is not new to him at all. I mean, he won a Super Bowl years and years and years ago. So he's got the experience. So I lean with the experience factor and the defense that Cleveland has and the lack thereof through the air that the Texans don't have.
All right, Sam, what are your thoughts on this? So I'm gonna lean into the Texans here, see if you agree with Chris or not. So 14% edge in our NFL model right now shows an edge to play the Texans when it comes to the points, right? Plus 2.5, but the Texans are also 6-2 against the spread when they are the dog. Do you have any reason to justify or argue against Chris in this, or is there something else that you're looking at that you like?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go against the model. I think I would back Cleveland here with the minus 2.5. Yeah. Number 1, you're getting it inside a field goal, which is a key number that we're looking for. So yeah, you're getting more value there, backing Cleveland than taking them on the money line. But yeah, I mean, Meaney pretty much hit on everything I wanted to. As phenomenal as Stroud has been, I mean, this is one of the best rookie quarterback seasons we've seen in years. But we can't really take away that Joe Flacco is literally playing with the best quarterback in the league. Like, I don't think it's going to be sustainable. And I mean, it's a lot easier to get excited about this young guy in Stroud, but I mean, just because it's old man Flacco, I mean, the dude is absolutely insane. When you look at our numbers on the season, I mean, these 2 teams aren't separated that far apart. To close the season, Cleveland finished as the top 8 team in DVOA, and Texans barely squeaked into the top 12, number 12. But the biggest gap is with Cleveland, they're 28th on offense and 2nd overall on defense. But that doesn't account for the recent sample size we have with Joe Flacco, and they're just a top 5 offense in the league. The Texans, on the other hand, are sort of middle in the pack, 14 on offense, 16th on defense. So, yeah, they're borderline just mediocre, average right there. But if Cleveland, I mean, if they even have a top 10 offense, like, I think they can make a legit run. I am rooting for Stroud. I'd love to see the rookie, win a playoff game on the road. But even then, I don't want to go too much in a narrative. But a rookie playing his first playoff game, traveling to a well-rested Cleveland team, I think the defense can be some trouble.
All right, cool. I like it. Chris, you mentioned this off the top. We're all fired up about it, right? The return of Tyreek Hill to Arrowhead Stadium. The Dolphins breaking my heart last week. I had money line Miami on the money line. Unfortunately, that did not happen. However, I know they're still dealing with some injuries. I don't know, Chris, do you have any updates on some of those key guys? I know they're still a little banged up. I know you're more in tune with that. What's going on with the Dolphins right now?
Yeah, nothing good.
Bad news.
Nothing good at all.
Bad news.
They're going to be without Bradley Chubb, who suffered a season-ending injury.
They were so good for so much of the season, and this is the worst time to deal with the injuries.
They really were. Ever since they had Jalen Ramsey back, I guess he had made his debut, Miami debut, till midway through the season, but their defense was starting to take shape. But he's going to play in this game. But Bradley Chubb is out. Jalen Phillips is out. Linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel is out. Those are their top 3 pass rushers. Not to mention Jerome Baker, who's their signal caller. So that's just not what you want to see.
Yeah, no.
Plus, they're banged up on offense with Raheem Mostert and Jalen Waddle questionable. And you have the fact that this could be, I always laugh because everyone talks about it every time of the year, but one of the coldest games of all time in the playoffs. That's a factor for a team that plays in Miami. And Tua, who has struggled on the road in cold weather environments, Tua has struggled offensively against good teams. Like, they still haven't really beat anybody good this season. The one win against the Cowboys. This is a team that averages over 30 points per game against teams with a losing record, and a team that averages fewer than 20 points per game against a team with a winning record. Plus, not to mention, you got to go to Arrowhead and play Kansas City, who have had their struggles. They're not the top of the offensive charts as we're used to seeing with them, but they rested all of their players basically last week. So it's almost like they're coming out of a bye. I don't think that this game is actually going to be all that close. I mean, Tyreek Hill is going to do what he can, but it's just tough when you lose all of those players. How are they going to be able to get pressure on the quarterback? And then to move the football? Kansas City has one of the best defenses in all of football this year. That's the difference between the Chiefs this year and the Chiefs last year. They're getting it done defensively. They're among the leaders in eliminating points, passing yards overall, passing touchdowns, yards per attempt. So I think that Miami's in a tough spot. I think that this is going to be a line that moves. We're talking to you guys on Wednesday. 4. There's some 4.5s. I think that, I don't know what, Sam, what you think, but I think this is going to get to 5, 5.5. I really do feel like as we get closer to kickoff and people start talking about this 0-degree weather and things like that, I think the line is just the way it is because we don't know about some of the offensive players. If Mostert or Waddle can't suit up in this game, I think that can creep. So if you like Kansas City, and I do, I would jump on this one right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, at what point, Sam, are you like still laying the points with Kansas City? If you are, like, are you still going that way? And like, when do you kind of, I mean, if you don't grab it now, like if people are watching this later, what's that line going to be at? You're still laying those points.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I mean, there's no chance I can lay the points with this version of the Kansas City team. I agree with you guys. I think the line is going to move towards Miami. And at that point, I mean, I want to grab Miami in that spot. I mean, we've seen the past 2 weeks, the offense definitely doesn't look the same without Jalen Waddle. Tyreek Hill is out there. I mean, he's seen massive volumes. You see his target share and WAP for the last 2 weeks. It's a lot higher in the rest of the season, but I mean, he's still not that game breaker that we have seen all season. And to me, it's just, can this version of Miami's offense, I am, for what it's worth, assuming that Jalen Waddle will play, maybe banged up, but regardless, I mean, if Miami can squeeze out 20 points, which, I mean, this is still the number 1 scoring offense in the league, I don't think that's expecting too much, but does Kansas City offense have the firepower to put up 20 points? I mean, they've barely been over that mark in the second half of the season. They have injuries on their own, but I mean, it doesn't get much coverage because it's really not guys that we care about. McKinnon's not going to play. Sky Moore, I mean, he did nothing this season, but I mean, that was a starting wide receiver for them. And, I mean, that's pretty pathetic to think that, Sky Moore was a starting wide receiver, did absolutely nothing in the box score. And you think the guy that they're rolling out against Miami is someone who's objectively worse than Sky Moore, so
we were high on Sky Moore before the season. Chris, you and I talked about him a decent amount, I feel like.
Yeah, and like, I mean, since Jalen Ramsey came back, Meaney did a great job hitting on all the injuries. I mean, we can't expect the same things, but they had a stretch where they were one of the top 5 units in the league, like I said, since Jalen Ramsey returned to the lineup. But I'd say even this version of the Dolphins defense is probably still a lot better than the Bengals. And we saw that they needed, 10 field goals to beat that team. So, I mean, any playoff team, I guess maybe aside from, I'd say, Pittsburgh, if you give me 3 points, like I said, against this version of the Kansas City offense, I'd probably just back that team blindly.
Okay. All right. Hey, Patrick Mahomes 11-3 in the postseason. So, I know everyone's been like, what are the Chiefs doing these days? But they do know how to win in the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see what happens. We mentioned weather. Weather is also going to be a factor in this next game. A pretty big factor. The weather in Buffalo this weekend is not looking too good. Winds are going to be high, potential snow. I don't know if that's changed at all, but as of what I heard yesterday, it sounds like it wasn't going to be too great. I mean, good news though. The Steelers have played in their fair share of weather games in Pittsburgh. But how much is this going to impact this game, guys? That spread, 10 points. I mean, what
it's
are we
large. Thinking? It's the largest spread of the weekend. I think actually the nastier it can be in Buffalo, the better it is for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, to potentially maybe keep this thing close. It's a very low total. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot offensively. Mason Rudolph, as Sam alluded to earlier, is the third quarterback. I just think he's the best of the three, to be honest with you. Anyways, they're 3-0. There's a team that averaged like 17 points per game, nearly 30 here over the past couple of weeks. He's hit Deontay Johnson. He's hit Pickens with a couple touchdowns. A couple of these are little slants that they were able to take to the house, but just getting the ball into these playmakers' hands has been nice to see if you're a Steelers fan. But this is the only stat for me that matters is there's no TJ Watt. When he's on the field, there's 69, 33, and 2, and they only allow 19 points per game. When he is off the field, they're an ugly 1-10, and they allow 26 points per game. That's a massive loss. A massive loss for this defense. Josh Allen is, I don't know, man. You never know what you're going to get with him. It's there's highs and there's lows. And 4 of the last 5, he's been held to 1 or 0 touchdowns through the air, but he's running them in. He had a great game against Miami last week, but he owns Miami over the course of his career. I like that it's a more balanced attack in Buffalo since Joe Brady's taken over. They're running the rock a little bit more. So it's a large spread. It's an opportunity to tease down. I think it's a perfect opportunity maybe to tease down here. And I could tease her a little bit later on, but maybe you can tease the Bills to win by a field goal. Maybe the Cowboys here to win by a field goal. The Lions to keep things close or whatever way you want. Those would be the 3 that we've talked about earlier that I would tease. But yeah, I mean, the Bills going to win this game.
Okay, hey, Sam, I want to dive more into this game total with you here. At what point? Because what is it at right now? Do we know specifically? And it continues to go down. It was like 45 at one point, I think. And then now it's like 30. It's shifting.
I can get the exact number in a second if Sam wants to just chat about the game.
Well, then, my question for you, Sam, because not only the weather is a factor, but like you're talking about the Bills are 29th in pace of play. So 2 teams, like you hit on part of it, Chris, just like, how fast these teams are playing. What's the cutoff for you? Like, when do you stop playing that under, Sam, in this game?
36.5, by the way.
Okay. Are you?
Yeah, I think 36.5 is a fair line, but when you start getting that low, it's normally just a shy away from me. Especially, Meaney talked about it. This Bills offense has been a lot more conservative since they transitioned to Joe Brady. Before then, they were top 5 in pass rate over expectation all throughout the first 10 weeks of the season. And now we see they are relying more on James Cook. Even Josh Allen, he's had season highs consecutively as far as rushing goes. We saw to begin the season, I guess in the preseason, McDermott talked about, limiting Josh Allen's carries, which they had done all season, but they finally realized that if they want to win games, they got to get the rock in Josh Allen's hands. And I think the main reason that they are trying to sort of limit the ball through the air is with the turnovers like we saw against Miami. So that's a concern, but I don't really want to touch the total with where it is right now, just because we have seen this Bills offense. They were capable of just walking out, dropping 30 points. They might lose the game, but we still know it's in their arsenal. And, I just have no idea how the weather's going to shake out. It's way too early in the week, and the spread will adjust for that. So we'll see. But when you see everyone pounding the under, it's normally not something I want to jump on. Again, with the firepower and the offense that we see on the Bills side of it. So,
all right, I like it. All right, next up, the Cowboys. Oh, we got Bills 5.5. I forgot you had this one too, didn't you, Sam?
Oh yeah, and I mean,
I knew
me
there was
talked about. I
something
mean,
else to it.
it's a massive spread. 10.5 for a playoff game is huge. I think teasing them down is the way to go. But also, I mean, less than 6 points. This line is on Bet365. It's a bit of value. You look at DraftKings and FanDuel, and they have it up at 6.5. But yeah, if you can get Bills within 6 points, I think they should be fine. You know, maybe go up by at least a touchdown or so at halftime. So.
All right, I like it. Okay, in Dallas, the Cowboys have been like it's so hard to bet against Dallas at home. Like I mean it's there's so 16 consecutive home games they've won, guys. It's insane. They've covered the spread in 12 of those. Which is going to be so tough for Green Bay cuz I mean you hit on it, Sam, like Jordan Love, like they were a surprise team for us, right? And they come out of the season on the 3-game win streak. So they've got some momentum, especially on offense. In the last 4 games, Jordan Love has thrown 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. So, you know, it's exciting. You want to like lean towards the dog here, right? But it's like you literally everything is against us when it comes to trying to fade the Cowboys at home. Chris, what do you like about this game?
Yeah, you're not wrong. And it's been unbelievable at home for the past 2 years. You mentioned the 16 straight at home, the perfect record this year, averaging 38 points per game at home, 29 overall as a team, but 38 at home this year and just 15.9 against. And then you have on the other side, you mentioned Love, the inexperienced. They're the youngest playoff squad in terms of average age at 25. I think I saw Peter Schrager say on Good Morning Football that they're the youngest playoff team of all time.
Oh, wow.
Which is amazing. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
that
I
would
heard
be
that.
interesting.
You look at just Love and his age, his first full year, 2 rookie tight ends and Musgrave and Croft, and then you have, a rookie tight end and Reed and sophomores and Romeo Dubs and Christian Watson. So they're just young all over the place. One thing I will say about Green Bay is you talk about the momentum and Jordan Love has played really good this season, pretty good of late. They're actually starting to get a little bit of momentum on the ground too. They're averaging over 150 rushing yards per game over the last 3 with Aaron Jones leaning on him a little bit. You can run on the Cowboys. You certainly can. Teams have run all over them. That's how Buffalo beat them a couple weeks ago with James Cook. Run. We saw Miami have a little bit of success against them as well. So I think that maybe that could be the game plan for Green Bay to run the football. I would give them the edge in LaFleur over McCarthy and some of the questionable things that he does and some big time losses that he's had in situations where his team has been favored, whether it's been clock management or play calling. But nobody can stop CeeDee Lamb. At the end of the day, nobody can stop CeeDee Lamb. Jair Alexander, good luck, dude. I know he's had some nice matchups before against Justin Jefferson and some good wide receivers, but CeeDee has just been a cheat code for the Cowboys. Brandon Cooks is trending up. Pollard's had a couple decent games in a row. You can run on Green Bay as well. Again, I don't want to be this guy to tease every game, but my two favorite teasers is teasing Buffalo down and Dallas down here. I think that the Cowboys they're probably going to cruise to the NFC Championship.
Okay, nice and bold. Hey, Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, take the overs obviously on them. Yeah, I know that our shop shows an edge. But Aaron Jones, actually, this is what I wanted to ask you about. The line's at 75.5. Are you playing the over on that? Because you just mentioned he's been a tool and Cowboys will let you run on him because we're projecting him to run for only 52 yards. So there's an edge to playing the under. What do you think of that line on him?
Yeah, that one's a little high. I'm waiting to see if there's some rushing attempt prop when it comes to him because I do believe that will be the game plan. Yeah, I see 70.5 over at Bet Rivers, 74.5 at FanDuel. Not seeing anything yet on a rushing attempt prop, but I would say that they run the rock as much as they can to try to keep Dak and company off the field. I see a receiving prop at 20.5 at FanDuel. I dig that one as well, just in case this game does get out of hand and he's catching some balls out of the backfield because you can't really rely on Christian Watson. And I think Dubs is nicked up at the moment as well.
Sam, what are your thoughts? What do you like about this one?
Yeah, to Meaney's point on the Aaron Jones topic, I think he made a lot of great points, and it is kind of hard to buy into a line as high as in the mid 70s because the last 2 games we have seen, I mean, he's been a monster, but they were also without AJ Dillon, so I think that definitely matters to the line. And one thing, I mean, one thing that I broke down last week was it was super weird why Aaron Jones wasn't involved in the pass game pretty much at all, and they were facing Chicago, and they were top they were one of the top 3 matchups for pass catching running backs. So it was like, if Aaron Jones doesn't catch balls in this game, he's just not gonna if they make it to the playoffs. And we did see him get utilized that way. But I mean, I can't tell if that's going to be a trend going forward or if it was strictly matchup driven. So I think, yeah, looking at his rushing props is probably better. And I think I think I would also just take the under right now on the 75.5 if you can find that. I think that line's only going to come down. But yeah, but going back to the home road split for Dallas, I think it was huge that they ended up winning the division because it is significant for them, especially on their offense. The one thing is though, it is kind of noisy because just the way the board played out, a lot of their easier matchups have been at home. I mean, it's just sort of how the schedule worked out, but you look at Green Bay, their offense has looked really good, but their defense has been a problem. I mean, they're a bottom 5 unit in the league. And, you know, you don't normally see a defense ranked 28th in DVOA squeak into the playoffs. So I think Dak is going to shred. And I think being at home is going to be a cherry on top. 7.5 is a big line for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they cover, but I think I would lean with Meaney and just take this on a teaser too.
Are you feeling as bold as him too? How far do you think they're gonna go?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it looks like we're set up for a Dallas versus San Francisco NFC Conference Championship. Like those guys, I mean, they're just a top clear tier above everyone else right now. So
it's the division. It's it. They won the division. It's huge. The fact that they don't have to go on the road to play Tampa, the fact that they're going to be able to avoid San Fran until the conference championship game, it was everything to win that division. We'll get to the Eagles later, but they blew it. And the Cowboys are in a good spot.
We're almost there. Don't worry. We'll get there. Are you wearing your Eagles? You're not wearing Eagles today.
No,
that's a hockey sweater.
Eagles. Yeah, no Eagles.
Hey, a team that you have though, you've been high on the Rams. I feel like quite a bit this season, Meaney. So 2 teams on hot streaks, 2 prolific offenses. Rams in Detroit. Spread on that is 3 points. What do we have? 3. I had 3. Yep, there we go. In favor of the Lions. Hey, which offense is going to put up more points in this one, guys? I feel like that's what it essentially comes down to, right? I mean, I know the Rams, like, they've been a little better on defense, but ultimately, it's going to be an offensive. This could be a shootout, yeah? What's the total?
I'm expecting some points.
What's the total?
It's in the 50s. It's in the 50s, and I mean, it's 51.5. It's the largest one. There's 50.5. So I think there's gonna be some points. I'm gonna let Sam kick it in case I'm just gonna talk up the Rams for a bit. So maybe he's feeling
okay. Yeah, so. Go ahead, Sam.
Go ahead,
yeah,
Sam.
You can. Depending on where you look, you can get a 3 point. Yeah, you can get the 3 in the hook, 3.5 at Bet365. But you're definitely seeing money come into the Rams, and I'm backing the Rams as well. I mean, I like them within a field goal. Like I said, 3.5 on Bet365, but. Yeah, I mean, it is a revenge game for both the quarterbacks. And just what we've seen with the Rams coming out of the bye, I mean, they're playing like one of the top units in the league on offense, at least. We've seen Matt Stafford, he's really hitting his stride since the bye. And, I mean, you look at the weapon just top to bottom, Kyren Williams, a monster, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp on both sides. I mean, they're doing it every which way possible, and they are knocking off some legit contenders along the way. We saw them against Baltimore. I mean, they're probably the only team to actually take Baltimore down to the wire in quite some time. So, I mean, I love Jared Goff. It's a great story, and I just think this. I think this is just a coin flip on both sides. And I mean, if the Lions were getting 3 points, I'd back them as well. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna be riding with the Rams on this one.
Okay, Chris, are you bold enough to play Rams on the money line?
I am.
Oh, he is. He's that high.
I like the Rams to win this game. We have talked them up a lot on this show. We gave 5-1 for them to be a wild card squad a couple weeks ago. I talked about them at 70-1 to win the Super Bowl. I'll get ahead of myself, but they are a team that could actually beat the 49ers. It's a divisional matchup, and I don't know if Dallas can beat San Fran. I know that the Rams can beat San Fran. They did it a couple years ago en route to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And Shanahan's had his number against McVay in the regular season, but not so much in the playoffs. Of course, they need to get by Detroit, and it's not going to be easy. I mean, this Lions team has been great, a top 5 offense across the board. Really, they finished 5th in points, 3rd in yards, 2nd in passing yards, 5th in rushing yards. But the Rams not too far behind, as Sam alluded to. They're 7-1 in their last 8. They're the hottest team in football, league best 7-1 over the last 8 games, and they took Baltimore to overtime, and they hardly lost that game. It was, I think, a punt return touchdown, walk-off touchdown. I believe the week before they played Cleveland, who we just gushed all over defensively, and Stafford had a great game against the Browns. He's got 15 touchdowns and 3 picks over his last 6. Detroit can stop the run, but this is where I think the biggest issue is. And I know the Rams defense isn't spectacular, but Detroit's defense has been worse. They're 23rd in points allowed. They're 27th in passing yards allowed and passing touchdowns. Only the Bengals have allowed more yards per attempt. They give up massive plays in the secondary. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. They give up big-time plays in the middle of the field as well. Those guys are going to eat in this game. I love Dan Campbell, but I think you have to learn how to lose before you learn how to win. I feel like Detroit is still talking about the loss to the Cowboys, and Stafford and company have just been waiting for this game. I think they knew that they were going to play Detroit, and it's a matchup that they can go in and win. McVay against Goff. He knows probably everything about Goff.
Yeah.
This should be a really, really fun game. A lot of points. And just give me the experienced coach, the experienced quarterback. I get the home and away splits. I think Campbell is definitely, if you would give him some truth serum, he'd say, man, I wish I didn't play Sam Laporta in week 18. They're going to be without Sam Laporta most likely in week 18. Has been one of their best weapons this season. I think that's a huge loss. Maybe Khalif Raymond, who's their punt return guy as well. Some issues. They lost some dudes in that game. Really a meaningless game for Detroit. So I like the Rams to go in there and win the game. I like them to make some noise. I think it's still worth a little bit of a sprinkle at 40-1, I believe, using the prop shop for the Rams to win the Super Bowl. Stafford's playing really good football. Some issues defensively, but there's a lot of teams in the NFC that have some issues defensively. So give me the hot hand and Matthew Stafford to pull off the upset. Let's go.
I love it. I love the point that you made about the veteran aspect of it, because I think a lot of people are in, like, this is something I circled. Obviously, this is Detroit's first home playoff game since the 90s. So you talk about an atmosphere boost, like 6-2 at Ford Field, but when you have a team that knows how to handle those environments and players, like, you look to that veteran experience. So I think because I think
McVay traded Goff, Abby, because he couldn't win the big game. Right, they went to the Super Bowl.
There you go.
And they didn't score any points, and he made the trade for Stafford, who can win the big game, and won the Super Bowl. So yeah, I don't know. Like,
I love the drama.
Like, too much here, but it should be I think Sam, game of the week. It's set up to be probably the game.
Oh yeah, I like it. I'd have to go there. I mean, because this is the one game where I feel like I'm confident enough that both offenses can push each other.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. Regardless of what happens, I want to see both these teams make a run. Like, either of these teams, Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, or Stafford and McVay run it back again. I'd love to see either sides of it. So I'm just rooting for a good game, to be honest.
I think this will be a good one. Hey, so we're gonna trade in all your Eagles gear. I guess I'll send you some. What's your address? I'll mail you some Rams gear. Is this how this is gonna go? Because we're getting to that part of the conversation. Eagles at Bucks. Are we going Tampa Bay money line too? Like, what?
I honestly don't know. You mentioned Rams gear. I think Sam and I should get a Puka Nacua jersey. He came on Mean Streets. We talked about this guy all nonstop in the summer. He won people championships and best balls, and he just that guy's.
Oh, actually, that reminded me. It's nice that we have props. We don't normally have props out this early. You can get Puka Nacua at -125 for over 5.5 tabs on Bet365. You look at DraftKings and FanDuel, and it's way up at -160. So that was one that I jumped on real quick. It's probably still out there. So
yeah, I already have it in the tracker. I put it in last night. I like Nacua for
I was surprised to see that, but
yeah me too. As for this game, I really don't know. Honestly, I don't know yet which side I am on. I think it's as simple as I need to.
Now, are your heart and your head now kind of starting to collide? Because before it was regular season. Now we're talking playoffs. And it's Chris Meaney, Eagles fan, versus Chris Meaney, who's been fading the the Eagles.
I have been fading them nonstop ever since. I think Sam, last time he came on, we talked about the Niners cruising past Philadelphia. Imagine that was a 2.5 spread. That one, and then Seattle. I was definitely on Seattle, and I've been on the Giants twice over the last 3 weeks, and the Cardinals. They almost allowed 900 yards on offense over the last 2 weeks. The Cardinals and the Giants. It's crazy here. And I know the Bucs aren't anything spectacular on offense. I think that where I'm confused is that the Eagles are a more talented team than Tampa Bay. They're a better squad than Tampa Bay. Offensively, they certainly are. Tampa's in the bottom 10 in terms of just like yards and points and passing yards.
Well, last week against the Panthers,
that's a thing too. Like they scored 9 points. They didn't even get a touchdown against the Carolina Panthers. But at the same time, the Eagles lost to the Giants and they lost to Arizona, and they've lost 5 of their last 6, and they rank 31st in passing yards allowed and 26th in yards allowed and 30th in points allowed. Only Washington has allowed more passing touchdowns. How are they going to be able to stop Chris Godwin and Mike Evans? It's offensively, they can't figure this thing out because they're struggling inside the red zone. And now I don't know if AJ Brown is going to play. That's where I'm actually a little hesitant at the moment. Is AJ going to be able to play? We're waiting results of an MRI expected today, Wednesday. Devontae Smith didn't play last week. Jalen's got the finger issue all of a sudden. They went to a defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, which was a massive mistake. And it's just snowballed even to more big plays allowed. The players on defense are completely confused about what coverage they should play and what plays they should run. And Darius Slay hasn't played in like 3 or 4 weeks due to a knee surgery. So it looks like he's going to play, but is he ready to go? Can he shut down Mike Evans? There's just so many questions surrounding this Philadelphia team that I can't give people the advice to back this squad at the moment. So right now I am leaning the Bucs.
I hurt for you as you said
+3.
It's like,
oh man, I leaning the Bucs +3.
Ugly game.
I actually don't think we'll see a lot of offense. I know that both teams are near the bottom in passing yards allowed, but I don't think we'll see a lot of offense. The Bucs have been really strong against the run. And I mentioned Philadelphia. Only Seattle's allowed more rushing yards than them since week 11. But on the flip side, Tampa's dead last in rushing yards. So I just don't feel like I think it's going to be a very sloppy game. I don't know. Where are you at, Sam? Help me out.
It's so tough. Like, there's nothing that you've seen from the Eagles recently that makes you feel confident about backing them.
Sad.
But, I think we did see this line open at 2.5. You are seeing some money come in on the Eagles, but with that said, I think I'm gonna take the Eagles here with the -3. For me, it's probably just more of a talent thing. Like, as terrible as this Eagles team has been, I mean, there's no denying on paper who the more talented team is. And you said they didn't score a touchdown against Carolina. If they don't score a touchdown in this game, they're not going to win. Straight up. That's just how it's going to go. But, I mean, Baker, he looked like he was pretty badly hurt. He was already on the injury report going in. And I think I'd be more optimistic backing the Bucs if, Baker was fully healthy 100%. Even then, you'd still see like probably 2.5 towards the Eagles side. But, that offense looked terrible, like really bad with Baker. And again, it was against Carolina, who have a decent secondary, but they just couldn't get it going. Even Rachaad White, who's been a monster, he couldn't get it going on the ground. So both these teams have looked terrible recently. And I think I think I'm just gonna take. I guess I'm just betting on the roster more than anything with Philly. So.
That's a good way to look at it, though. I think that's a good way to look at it.
That's why it's so tough, Abby, because on paper they're night and day.
I know.
Right? These two teams played each other in week 3 and Philly cruised in that game. They ran all over the Bucs, but so much has changed since then. It's a confidence thing. I hear the same thing from all the players and their coaches after the game. It's on me. It's on us. It's not a skill thing. We're just not making the plays. So maybe they squeak out a victory basically based on the fact that it's Jalen Hurts versus Baker. But neither of these teams are going to win another playoff game.
Well, on that super positive note, guys. No, this is good. This is going to be a fun weekend. I'm pumped about it. The weather I'm so curious what kind of factor that plays, because I love turning on the TV and everyone's like diving around in the snow, and that just makes everything more interesting. However, not necessarily for our plays, I guess, because then we're all like holding our breath. Like, wait, we just played the over on that and now we're way under. No, but it'll be fun. It's playoff season, people. I can't wait. Appreciate you guys as always. Any final thoughts before we go?
Nothing really for me. I had this little teaser. I talk teasers all the time. I think this is from DraftKings, -2.5 KC, Buffalo 2.5, Dallas 2.5, and then the Rams to kind of keep this thing close, plus 289. But I think the two teams that are in really good teaser situations are the Bills and the Cowboys. I can't see those two teams losing this weekend. And even if it is tight and a sweat for Bills Mafia or the Cowboys, America's team, they probably win by a field goal.
All right. I love it. Sam, thank you very much. We appreciate you joining the show yet again. We appreciate all of you guys tuning into the NFL Betting Show. We're going to keep this going throughout the postseason, and we look forward to hearing about all your wins, hopefully not as many losses, and we will see you guys next week.
Go Saints.